I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with the cattle market summary for the week ending June the 8th, where $5 higher at the wall. Who would have thought that? This outstanding demand, the kind of money that these packers are making, and the way that they really ramped up the slaughter is helping us get over this wall. And now that we haven't been selling a lot of cattle for that short-term delivery, packers were needing cattle going into next week and ended up selling cattle a lot higher on Friday afternoon. But still here at Dubuque, Iowa, at the LMA convention, and waiting on the World Livestock Auctioneer Championship contest that'll be held Saturday in Bloomfield, Wisconsin, where they've got 4,000 head of cattle to sell on Saturday, and really looking forward to see how that deal turns out. But let's look at the board for last week. August live cattle futures, Monday was down $1.17. Tuesday was back up $1.60. Wednesday up 52 cents. Thursday was back down 42 cents, and then Friday up $1.62, waiting on that higher fat cattle trade that everybody knew was going to develop, and it did. But August live cattle futures ending the week at 105.77, which was up $2.15 for the week. Now your June performed better than your out fronts all week long and ended up at $1.10.05, which was higher than last week's trade. No more basis there, but we created another basis with the higher fat cattle trade that we had on Friday. But that 110.05 for your June ended the week at up $5.15 for the week. August feeder cattle, Monday was down $1.47, Tuesday up $1.27, Wednesday up 62 cents, Thursday down 67, and Friday up $1.20, with your August feeder cattle ending the week at 147.27, up 95 cents for the week. Go out to October, which had really grown to a big advantage to what your spot market was, but backed off a little bit later in the week, with October ending the week at 148.35, but still up 195 for the week. Your fat cattle trade, what everybody was waiting on, and it finally ended up Friday, kind of later in the afternoon. But Texas and Kansas getting $1.15. That was $4 to mostly $5 higher than last week, right as we were in the middle of this big wall of cattle that were coming down the pike. But I tell you what, we are harvesting those things and really moving through this big glut of cattle. Nebraska never really established a live price, but did sell their dress sales from 182 to mostly 183 late on Friday, and that would be $5 higher. Did have some 185 on the grid for choice in some regional areas there, and just a strong fat cattle market, especially in the face of all these big supplies. But the thing that really helped was the last week or two, your sellers slowed down on those sales of 2 to 4 week delivery cattle, and that really hit home late this past week as your packers needed cattle, and even though we have heavy supplies of market ready cattle, they didn't have a whole lot more on the books from what they really needed. So even though these packers are making, everybody says, around $300 a head, and they just you know, they're in the business to make money. And they've got greed, even though depending on how some of your cattle feeders and your backgrounders have things hedged, maybe not showing that true greed, but your packers are really pushing on that because they're making so much money per head, and they're looking at the bottom line, even though they hate to lose that market position for themselves. But box beef cutout values, your average trade for last week on choice cuts, $226.95, which was down $1.04 compared to the average trade of the previous week. But select cuts, $204.47, up 14 cents. But May was a great month for your box beef cutout values, and your average trade for the month of May on choice cutouts was $229.70. That's pretty impressive. You look at your feeder cattle markets for last week, your real-time index on Beef Market Central ended the week, or late on Friday, at 139.55. That was up 11 cents from Thursday's close, but up $2.50 compared to the end of the week the previous week. and that 139.55 is real tight with the latest available CME cash feeder cattle index at 139.65. Your steer tracker, which is the average of those 700 to 900 pound steers in the 12 state region on your bigger bunches on Friday, was at 146.20. So we're looking at a lot better market late in the week than we did earlier in the week and the average for the week, and we should come into these big high volume Monday sales on a higher note again, as they started after their Monday layoff. They started those Monday sales a bunch higher, and your feeder cattle buyers were real aggressive all week long after the shortened holiday week that we had for Memorial Week. But you look at your cash feeder markets and your auction markets through the week, and your trends ended up $2 to $6 higher, which kind of goes along with that real-time index trend of $2.50 higher. But southeastern calves were kind of unevenly higher. Some of them were just steady to a couple bucks higher, but some states in the southeast ended as much as $8 higher. But not a good test of stalker type calves back in the plains in the Midwest, as those cattle are mostly turned out, and just your sales are really kind of winding down, with the exception of a few specials that they kind of gang up on every 3 weeks or so, and some of your big sales in the Midwest. But where they did have a big special was way out west at the Shasta Livestock Auction Yard in Cottonwood, California, and they had that big video sale on Thursday there. But the guys in the back were sorting up cattle and getting ready for that big special in Shasta on Friday. But they sold 124 head of steers weighing 675 at 155.50, which is pretty impressive. But here in Dubuque, working this LMA convention, and we had the National Beef Wire up, and people were gathered around it, and most of them look at the impressive sales at Richmond, Kentucky on Friday, and they were selling them on Friday at the Bluegrass Stockyards in Richmond, Kentucky. They had 128 head of steers, weighed 772 at 144.25, and be finishing out here this weekend and heading back to my home office. But from Dubuque, Iowa, that's a look at your week's markets. We'll talk to you next week.